we're talking weeks. We're talking, I believe, six
Really?
weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks till I had the kidney stones. By the time the brain infection was fine, I was in the hospital, and the result from the biopsy had came back. I was diagnosed with sarcoidosis, which is an autoimmune hypersensitivity reaction. That's common. That's a body response to an antigen. There's been a lot of cases after mRNA injection, as the body immune system is overstimulated and
Hmm.
overreacts in the way that it shouldn't, and starts clumping white blood cell around the antigen, which creates inflammation in the organ. So I was happy it wasn't cancer. The cancer scare was, it was that, but then the brain thing started. And I was in the hospital for 12, 13 hours in the wait room in the emergency waiting for a doctor. When I walked in the emergency room, I could still move my toes and my left limb, but within 12 hours, started climbing my left legs and going down my left shoulder to my left arm, to the point where at the end, slept there. The next day, I could not use my left legs anymore, and my left arm was kind of useless. I
Holy
couldn't use
shit.
my fingers anymore.
So Max, at any point are any of the doctors saying, "Hey, maybe this is related to the injection,"
No,
or
no,
they're all just, "Hey, this young guy is all of a sudden showing with kidney issues, things in his lungs, infections." They're just saying, "Well, I guess you just had a bad streak of luck." Is that kind of how they're presenting it to
yeah,
you? Like they don't know why you're coming down with all this stuff?
but they knew that the infection came from the brain infection was came from my the sternum infection, because the bacteria they find was a throat bacteria that got grabbed on the way down and deposited in the lymph node and then circulated through my system, made its way to my head and started growing inside of my brain. As for the immune system, it took them about a year and a half for further case report, because since the phase 3 wasn't really completed on the vaccine and there was no long case data for possible reaction, I think it was in the winter of 2022 that this hypersensitivity reaction of the immune system got added as a post-market adverse event on Moderna website. So that's when I really kind of started cluing in and asking questions to the doctor, because otherwise they wouldn't bring up the subject forward as long as you're doing better than you were before. I mean, that's their job, right?
Yeah.
So then I started asking more questions about it, and then it became like case reports after case reports of sarcoidosis, either in the eyes, on skins, in organs, in lungs, because it can happen anywhere in any organ, on the body,
No,
depending where
no,
the reaction
yeah.
takes place.
No, so my question to you is, you're
Yeah.
going to see the doctors, you've got all these issues that are showing up. Was your first inclination, hey, maybe it's due to the injections, or were you just like, man, it's just a bunch of bad luck? Like, what were you thinking the cause was at the time?
At first, talking to the doctor, I thought it was just bad luck. It
Okay.
was 1 in a 1 million kind of thing. But then in 2022, when more evidence came out and the mechanism of illness was highlighted in case study, and things started making more sense, and the time frame, I was able to talk with the doctor, and then we're able to say that there was a 4 chance that my body just poorly reacted to it, and I was given an exemption from then on. And then an adverse effect a report was sent up to Health Canada following that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
But that took a substantial amount of time. And
yeah. It took
so
enough.
what you said previously, that there was no long-term data to be able to compare to what you're going through, was literally the rationale for most of us that were like, I don't know if I'm okay with this, because there
Yeah,
is no long-term data. And so you're just
that's why
showing you, yeah, the issue is real. I mean if you don't have long-term data, it's very hard to make a long-term decision.
yeah,
And unfortunately, you ended up being part of like the case studies of folks that have long-term issues
yeah.
due to this thing. So you're currently going through all these issues, and then eventually Health Canada, obviously they recognize, oh yeah, there's an issue here. And the military, because I've read some of your documents that you sent me, clearly has stated that you were injured. And if you could clarify that a little bit, like at what point did the military eventually come around and say, well, I guess, yeah, this had to be due to the injection?
In November 2022, after all the case study, I was able to take an appointment with the doctor, and I show up in the office, and I had the case study with me. I have the reports, I have everything, and we sat down and we talked it out. And then at that point, once she sent the report to Ottawa to report the after event, because I wasn't the only one. I think by 2022, I think there was 171 reported that adverse event that had been sent, that had been submitted, because it was a lot. At that point, then I with VAC for disability benefit to get the injury recognized in 2022, and I'm still waiting. We're in 2024.
Right, and that's the issue right now. So it's been recognized that you were injured. Okay, we got that. Now, to be fair, right, folks get injured from all the time. This is known. There's a certain level of tolerance. Folks in the military, they get injured by other vaccines. But in this particular case, you were ordered to do it. And I guess I'm putting order in quotation marks, right? Because Catherine, part of what you're contending is that these weren't orders, they were directives. And that's a whole other reason why you've got another court case on the go. But for simplicity's sake, from your perspective, it's an order because you're being told if you don't do this, you don't have your job.
That
right?
it's a directive or an order, it doesn't matter, like the name they put in front of it. As a member of Canadian Armed Forces, I am expected to follow all directive and all orders submitted to all members. So it doesn't matter. The directive was very clear on what needed to be done, for what date it needed to be done, and for what purpose, which was to accomplish a task on garrison in domestic situation, so it's just for showing up on base and doing my job.
Yeah. Okay, got it.